Good evening, everyone. My name is William Hemsworth. Welcome to the Bible Catholic channel here on YouTube. Honored to have my guest today, Ari Martinez. She's the host of the Jesus Talks YouTube channel. As you may recall, I was a guest on her show a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to have her on today and talk about her story. Ari, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you, brother?
Hey, I'm doing well. It's a beautiful 103 degree day in Tucson. It's good stuff. You?
Oh, it's pretty windy out. I can't tell you the degrees, but all I know is that it's pretty windy. Earlier it was really hot and I was sweating so much, but I mean it looks like the weather finally cooled down. So
Well, good, good, good. Well, thanks again for taking the time and coming on just so we could chat a little bit about you, what you're doing, and that awesome event that you're going to next week. We'll touch on that as well. So, can you tell us, Ari, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, if you don't mind?
yeah, absolutely. So well, my name is Ariana, but I go by Ari because it's just shorter and easier for people. And I have a pretty big family. I got my mama, my dad, but then I also have several siblings as well. Two of them that are angel babies, and then I have my older brother, my two younger sisters, and then there's me. So I'm the second oldest out of all of us. And I grew up in a Catholic household. I was born and raised Catholic my entire life. Since I was a little baby, I remember just going to church. Grew up in the church. Basically, we were one of so the thing about Hispanic families is we're very cultural Catholic. So even though we may not be fully participating, in church events, we were there every Sunday. So it was like a thing. It's like we all just got to keep going. So we did. I grew up. I didn't really know too much about the faith, if I'm being honest with you. But I think, but honestly, I think that I I had my first encounter at 15 actually,
Okay.
and with the Lord. I had my first encounter at a Hispanic prayer group. That was a lot of fun. I was very I was very shocked because I don't think I've ever experienced anything like I've ever did when I went to that prayer group. I think it was, I know a lot of times we tend to have emotional experiences. And sometimes that is where the Lord can touch us and move us. And I think that's what happened with me. And after that day, I never looked back. And here I am.
So, you said at age 15 you had that experience.
Yes, age 15.
Wow. So, how has your faith grown since then? What kind of things do you do to keep learning and keep engaged, keep that fire going?
Um, Prayer is a very huge aspect of my life. The saints. I think I've definitely grown a huge love for the saints in general. Saint Joseph and Saint Michael being two of my favorites, along with Mother Teresa of Calcutta. She was my patron saint actually when I got confirmed, and so really just asking for their intercession has really helped me. I think also reading a lot has helped me. Catholic Answers is amazing when it comes to resources for anybody that wants to learn. So I grew up listening to Trent Horn, Dr. Carla Broussard, all those amazing heavy hitters that you see on Catholic Answers. I grew up listening to them, and so yes, I think that is what I usually do. I usually either watch either apologetics online. There's several priests that I also watch as well, and really just reading, really just reading, and really taking in as much as I can
Okay.
every day.
What drew you to Mother Teresa, since she's your patron?
I actually thought I was gonna end up being a sister. So
Okay.
I thought, yeah, I thought I was called to be a nun actually. And so I chose her thinking that she was going to be the one that was going to lead me to, to join the sisters. And that didn't happen, obviously. Um, but I guess I thought that was the reason why I had chosen her, because I was like, oh, she's a nun, she's a sister. I fell in love with her story. Just the way that she dedicated her entire life to the Lord, because she worked in like the worst places possible that you could think of around the world. She was very very dedicated, and one of the things that really fascinated to me about her story was that she was somebody that was heavy into the sacraments, She lived a very beautiful, prayerful life. But man, did she go through a lot of spiritual warfare. 40 years without feeling or sensing the presence of God in her life. Throughout those 40 years, she never gave up on God. And that is what really drew me to her, because I'm like, how can somebody like Mother Teresa, who her entire ministry, her entire world is serving our Lord, and then all of a sudden she just doesn't feel the presence of God anymore.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the huge reasons into why, that is what drew me to her, was just that the lack of the fact that she never lacked any faith. She never even complained. That's what people don't know about it. She never complained when she didn't feel the presence of God. She continued to serve and she continued doing what she was doing. She continued to visit the Eucharist. She continued to participate in everything. So that to me was fascinating.
That is fascinating. I mean, 40 years. I'm 46 years old now. I'm an old man according to my kids. Um, but 40 years without feeling that faith, that devotion is really inspirational. Is really inspirational to us. So what kind of things are you doing now? Obviously, you have your YouTube channel. Are you active in your parish at all or in your community?
Yes, yes. I am a fifth and sixth grade catechist teacher, so they combine both of them together. So I have my kiddos, my Sunday school kiddos that I do at church. And I mean, that's mainly one of the main things that I do. And then I also, like, online, I do my podcasting here.
Yeah.
But I'm also, another William I work for, William Albrecht. I am actually his editor for his channel. So I help out, help him book guests, help make his thumbnails, give him show ideas, help him promote his stuff online, etc. So that's basically what I do.
And he keeps you busy, I'm sure.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Love you, Will. Love you, William. No, so teaching fifth and sixth grade, was that a grade that you chose to teach in church, or was that one that was just assigned to you?
Actually, no. Um, I was actually thrown into it. I wasn't supposed to be teaching, actually. So funny story, and it has to do with my friend, my really good friend Cindy. She's super Catholic, one of the most super Catholics that I know. Um, she wanted me to accompany her to a meeting at the church because she actually taught that grade, fifth and sixth grade, and so I thought we were going into the meeting, and because she just wanted me to accompany her. She's like, "Oh, just accompany me to this meeting." She's like, "It shouldn't be that long." She's like, "They're just gonna tell me like what I'm gonna do with my kiddos and all that." I was like, "Okay, fine." So I go in there, right? I sit down, a bunch of ladies around, and they're all discussing the school year, and I'm just here, in my own world. And then all of a sudden, they're like, "Hey, we need a fifth and sixth grade catechist teacher." And then all eyes turn on me, and I look back at them, and I was like, "Why are you all looking at me?"
No pressure. No pressure.
And they were all looking at me. They're like, "What do you think?" And I was like, I'm like, "Isn't she supposed to be teaching it?" But turns out they actually ended up changing her assignment to something else because they needed another position filled. And so they asked me, and then my friend was like, "You should do it." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, no." And I was thinking in my head, I'm like, "Please don't make me say it." And just a moment, I'm like, "I'm gonna say no." I was thinking in my head, I was like, "I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no." And then they're like, "So do you want to do it?" Yes. I was like, I was like, why did I? And it's like my head was thinking no, and my mouth immediately said yes, and I was like, oh no. I'm like, what did I get myself through? Um, and that is how I ended up being a catechist teacher. I go in accompanying my friend, thinking it's all for her, and then it turns out the Lord had other plans, and I
And how
I
long
teach this good.
and how long have you been doing that?
This is barely my first year.
First
I
year.
just
So
yeah, I just got done actually with my first year, so.
okay. So what things have you learned from those fifth and sixth graders though, and in regard to your faith?
I learned I learned the importance of why I need to know my faith. Actually, that's the first thing. I learned so much from them, and that knowing my faith, knowing how important it is, because you never. Because here's the thing. I feel like you can go in there and you can act like you know everything. The kids are very intelligent,
Ooh, they
and
know.
and and, and they just know. They the moment that you walk into the room, either one or two things: either you walk in there confidently into the room and you know exactly what you're going to speak about, what you're going to do, you will captivate them. Or you walk in there kind of unsure, kind of insecure, don't really know what you're doing, that automatically turns them off.
Mhm.
So it's really it really pushed me to study more, because I was thinking it was going to be kind of easy. But there are times where I've got stumped on questions they asked me. Deeper questions that I'm like, I wasn't even thinking that when I was in fifth and sixth grade. But they're very smart, and I can tell it's because they were actually paying attention. And not only that, and it also made me reflect to myself: am I practicing what I'm preaching to these kids? Like, for example, we like in the month of October, October is the month of the Rosary. I don't know if a lot of people know this. October is the month of the Rosary, and I actually got to teach them how to pray the Rosary. But obviously, for me to be able to teach them, and for me to, because what good will it do for me to tell them, oh, guys, you should pray the Rosary, and yet I'm not praying the Rosary myself. I'm not practicing, or I'm not doing it in my life. Because they did ask me, Miss, do you pray the Rosary every day? And I'm like, actually, I do pray the Rosary every day. And they're like, okay. And they could tell that they could tell I wasn't lying to them. So they really taught me how to put my faith into practice.
Yeah, and that's interesting you say that because I teach fifth and sixth grade at church as well, in addition to the RCIC program, and I teach for a living. I teach middle school, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, and I don't think the kids get enough credit. They know, they know when you're authentic. And so, what do you think would be is the importance of us being authentic in our faith when we're just interacting with other people?
I think you can't put on a mask, especially if you're calling yourself a Catholic. You cannot be putting a mask like in front of people, because people can immediately tell when you're trying to be something that you're not, or when you're trying to over exaggerate something. It's kind of like those salespeople that you see, like they act all friendly, right? They walk, when you go to the mall, and like you see those salespeople and they come up to you, hi, how are you doing? Wow, your hair looks great. They're complimenting your hair because they're probably going to sell you a hair product, or they're trying to sell you something, right?
Yeah.
And and I bet you that a large percentage of them don't even actually use the product that they're trying to sell you. So it's something like that. I feel like with our faith is that it's very important to be authentic, because um you can't you can't talk about Christianity and not be practicing it. You can't be preaching about something and telling people that they should believe in God when you're living a life that doesn't even reflect the way that God would want you to live. Like, what good would it for me to okay? What good would it do for me to go up to somebody? Let's say, for example, I'm talking to somebody that's not even a Christian. They're a completely different faith, right? Let's say, for example, I'm talking to a Muslim, right? And I'm telling them, hey, you know what? I think that you should become a Christian, and they'll be like, okay, why? They're like, well, because we have the Eucharist, and because we have adoration, and you're telling them all these different things about why, like, because the Bible, the Bible is so important, and at one point, it comes at one point where it's like, by the way that you're talking to them about it, they're gonna be able to tell whether you're somebody that's actually practicing their faith or whether you're not. Because a lot of people, they will take a look at your life, especially the people who know you. People who are closest to you, those are your hardest critics, because they will be like, so you're over here telling everybody that they should believe in God and that they should worship God and that they should follow Christ, but you're not living a life that reflects like God. So I think that's the importance of authenticity.
Yeah, amen. What was that? What was that saying? You may be the only Bible that a person reads, so be a good translation. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so let's pivot for a minute. And thank you for sharing your background, your channel, Jesus Talks. And by the way, that link is in the show notes, so go ahead and subscribe. What brought about this channel and this show?
So I was always a very avid reader and a very avid podcast listener. I loved listening to podcasts when I was younger, and it's really weird. You don't really get to hear 15-year-olds like listen to podcasts, but I was one of those 15-year-olds that was listening to podcasts. I would listen to a lot of mental health podcasts and a lot of secular ones as well. And then later on, when I actually like started encountering the Lord and working my relationship, I started Christian podcasting. I started to listen and I really liked it. And um, it's actually been over a year that for some reason, every single time that I would talk to somebody, about the faith, they'd be like, "Have you ever thought about doing a podcast?"
Oh wow.
And I'd be like, "No." I'm like, I don't even like being on camera, and I was thinking to myself, like, me doing a podcast, never. I'm like, who would want to listen to a girl from Indiana? Like, that's boring, I'm like, and plus, I'm like, I don't even really know. I'm like, I know a little bit about my faith, but I'm still learning, and it just kept happening where people would just be like, he's like, you'd make a really good podcast host. I think you should do a podcast. And like, I thought people were kind of crazy and I was like, that's not happening. But then I felt like the desire and I started thinking about it. The desire kept growing. All of a sudden that desire just appeared in my heart where it was like, I should start something. I'm like, but I'd be like, but why would I want to start a Catholic podcast? I'm like, I don't know much. I'm like, what could I possibly talk about? And it got to the point where it was nagging me so much to the and then I was like, all right. I'm like, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm like, I'm just gonna tell the Lord, and this is how my prayer kind of went. All right, Lord, I have this desire to start a podcast. I don't know where this is coming from. I think it's from you, but I want you to make it even more obvious for me. I'm like, so here's what I'll do. I have my dad's laptop. I'm like, make it easy for me to be able to start this podcast. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I don't know what you want me to do. I'm like, but if you really want me to do this, you got to give me something to work with. And so I gave him 30 days actually. I was like, I gave you 30 days to give me a clear answer on what it is that you want me to do. Do I do this podcast or do I not? I'm like, if this desire is not from you, then take it away from me completely. And so I was looking at my dad's laptop and in my head I was like, oh, I'm like, this will be good to use meanwhile, but I was like, man, the camera quality is terrible, and I kept trying to use it as an excuse. I was like, there you go, Lord. I'm like, well, camera quality is terrible. There's no way you want me to do this podcast, right? And then all of a sudden, like, not even like a week after, my friend Cindy, I was at her house and she's like, hey, she's like, because I was telling her about this desire that I had. I didn't tell her about the camera quality or anything. I was like, so I just told the Lord, I'm like, just make it easy for me. And she looked at me, she's like, do you have a camera? And I was like, no. And then she's like, I have this web camera that I've only used once when I was in school. And she's like, do you want it? She's like, I'll give it to you for free. And I was like, I'm like, let me take a look at the camera. In my head, I was like, there's no way this is gonna happen. Nope, it fit my dad's laptop perfectly. It was a really good quality, and I was like, oh no. And and then all of a sudden, after that, I was like, okay. I'm like, so I guess this is happening. So she gave me the web camera, and then I was looking for a microphone, and I was like, well, I'm like, these microphones are too expensive, Lord. I'm not gonna do it. I'm making another
Yeah.
excuse. I'm not gonna do it because these microphones are so expensive. I found a really good quality microphone that was fairly cheap on Walmart, and I was like, oh. I was like, okay. And then I finally had my camera, I finally had my little microphone, and I finally had my headphones, and I was like, all right. I'm like, I guess we're doing this thing, and I did it, and then I never looked back after that.
So you had this. So God put people in your life to kind of plant this seed about what He may want you to do. You prayed about it. You said no way. You said no, the camera quality is bad. So someone give you a camera. You're like, I don't have a microphone, and then you find a good sale. Yeah, sometimes God works that way, right?
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, even for the title, I was like, what am I gonna name this podcast? And and I was like, all right. I'm like, I'm gonna pray about it. you know, and and I was like, I don't want anything with my name on it, because I was thinking about it, I'm like, this is already awkward enough. I'm like, I'm probably just gonna do audio only, podcast, not even show my face, like just, you know. And I had no idea for a cover art. I had no clue, and I was like, I don't even know anybody that does a cover art. And I was like, I'm gonna ask my sister to do it. And my sister was like, no, I have a friend who will do a much better job than I will. So she actually connected me with her friend who did my cover podcast, and she didn't charge me that much either for it. And I was like, okay, so this is happening. And then, but with the name, I just kept hearing Jesus talks during the prayer sessions that I was doing, because I was praying at that time, because I was like, I don't want to mess this up, I'm like, I don't want a dumb name for it. I don't want to like be something that I come up with. And I was like, all right, Lord, what do you want it to be? Jesus talks. And I was like, Jesus talks. I'm like, what kind of name is that? I'm like, Jesus isn't talking. Like, it's just me. And then, but no, but the more that name kept popping up for me, he's like, no, Jesus talks. Like, these are talks about Jesus. Jesus talks because Jesus is talking through us to get to people. And so that everything just started to make sense in my head, and my mind was just blown at the way that the Lord was slowly just making my head kind of was like, this is the logic and this is the path that I want you to go to, and this is what I have planned for you. And I was like, what am I going to talk about? Like, I even prayed about that. I'm like, Lord, I'm not worthy to do this. I'm like, I suck when I'm on camera. I'm terrible. I'm like, I don't even know how to I hate public speaking. I can't public speak for the life of me. I don't even like being on camera. I don't even like hearing myself talk. And I was like, I can't even do it. I'm like, so I'm like, and I don't even know what exactly it is that you want me to talk about. And actually, it wasn't until one night till he told me, he's like, this isn't about you. This isn't about you.
Wow.
He's like, it's Jesus talks. He's like, I will be talking to you. And he's like, and I feel like slowly he started giving me episode idea. The first one was doing, I think I shared my testimony. He's like, and after I did that, the night that I did my testimony, I prayed afterwards. And that is where he made it clear with me. And he told me, he's like, I want you to share everything that I've done in your life. I want you to share that. He said, because people are going to listen. And I was like, okay. And so I did it. I didn't really believe too much in it, to be honest, but I was proven wrong.
Well, God qualifies the called. If we give ourselves over to His will, He will use us for His glory. So amen to that. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So what has been your experience with this channel? Like, what have you learned? What's your goal? Besides Jesus talks, obviously.
Yeah, so I think for my channel, honestly, one of the things that surprises me is the fact that I'm still going, because there are many times where I wanted to kind of throw the towel, and I was like, I'm done. Like, and then it's especially hard because, it's very easy to get in front of a camera and share your faith, right? But when you're in a good mood, or when you have those good days. But when you have the bad days, when you're also struggling yourself, when maybe, like, for example, like, it's so easy for me to come on camera and talk about prayer, and talk about how wonderful how God is, and how God answers every prayer, and like kumbaya, and like everything is all pretty, and it's amazing, and prayer is amazing, and all that stuff. But then there are also days where it does get hard to get on camera, because maybe you're going through maybe a certain, like, stage in your life, where maybe you're struggling with your faith. Maybe you're struggling in your prayer life. Maybe your prayer life feels like a desert. Like a lot of the incredible saints have went through the exact same thing,
Mhm.
where maybe their spiritual life felt like a desert. And so it's really having to push through it. But one of the things I learned, actually, one of the things that does help me, is that I'm very vocal, and I'm very honest with my audience. So, like, even like, after, not when I'm going through it, but like after I'm going, like, after certain phases like end, I think back and I'm like, okay, what did I learn through this process that I just went through? Okay, this is what I learned. All right, let me get on camera and let me share what I just learned about this. And I'll be like, hey guys, I just went through this, and guess what I just learned? 9 times out of 10, it's helping somebody else who literally is going through the exact same thing that I just went through. So it's really having to push through those hard days. really having to push through, knowing the fact that people are watching you, knowing the fact that now it's not just about coming on camera and preaching the faith, but now it's also not only are the people closest to you watching, but it's also like, are you living out your faith? Are you living up to what you're preaching? It really all comes down to that. Are you living to what you're preaching on camera? Like, are you really practicing your faith? Are you really seeking the Lord every day? Um, and 9 times out of 10, where I've tried to record, where I'm going through the hard times, or maybe I've distanced myself from God, and I try to record, things don't go right. Things don't go right.
Okay.
Like, the Lord immediately just makes it so obvious. Don't even talk, because you're still going through your process. So, yeah.
Now, you don't talk to just Catholic folks. I mean, yesterday you were talking about the Coptics, right?
Yes.
You've had Orthodox priests on and everything else. So, you explain what you're doing with what
Yes.
kind of guests you have on there.
Yes. 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 So I have all kinds of guests. I'm gonna start bringing in Protestants and Muslims as well, on my channel.
Okay.
So what I'm doing is specifically with the apostolic faiths. So for those who don't know what that is, that would be the Catholics, Oriental Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox, and the Assyrian Church of the East. So as many people may or may not know, on your channel, we were all united as one church at one point, and then everybody kind of broke off afterwards. But again, we still have valid bishops, valid priests, valid Eucharist, valid everything. So what the purpose of my channel is to build a bridge between them, help people realize that despite the toxicity that you may see online, those bridges can be built. You can have conversations. You may not have to be agree or see eye to eye on things, but there are still important conversations that need to be had. So, for example, yesterday I had on Father Anthony, who is a Coptic Orthodox priest. He is part of the Oriental Orthodox group, actually, the church. He's one of them. So the Oriental Orthodox, it's the Coptics, the Syriacs, the Armenians, and the Ethiopians, and many more. So he's part of that group. So we talked about the 21 Coptic martyrs yesterday, and that one was a very great episode because he's Coptic. That is very personal to him. So the Catholic Church also recognizes the 21 Coptic martyrs because of Pope Francis. Thank God for Pope Francis, who we got they were added to our list as well. But I brought him on because this is deep and personal for them, because the Coptic Church, they have those 21 martyrs, like that literally happened on their territory. And it wasn't just like a one time thing. So I love being able to talk about those different topics. I've also had on I've I've also have had on, even, for example, Catholic apologists, Dr. Carlo Broussard, William Albrecht, Voice of Reason. I've had some incredible Catholic apologists as well. I will bring them on to either, one, share their testimony, or two, I will have them to go on and talk about specific topics that maybe people are struggling with today. So just recently, I just did a live stream with Dr. Carlo and William, and we did a part two on intercession of the saints, because that is a topic that a lot of people struggle with, especially our Protestant brothers and sisters. They don't understand why do we pray to saints. And so it's really really getting to bring those people in, dive deep into those conversations, into those topics, and help equip people. Whether you're Orthodox, or whether you're Catholic, or whether you're Syrian Church of the East, because the apostolic faiths, like, we're very similar in so many different ways. And that is the main focus of my channel, is to bring beauty, to bring light into those churches. Because what always sticks in me is we were all united at one point. We were all one church at one point. And I do believe that when we keep having these conversations, there is a possibility for unity one day. It may take a while, but I do believe that there's unity for it, and that is what my channel is about. It's about highlighting the different faiths. Now, when I dialogue with different faiths that maybe are not apostolic, for example, when I speak to Muslims or Protestants, when I have those kinds of conversations, it is to also build a bridge between them too. Also focus on, this is our differences, but these are our similarities as well. For example, Protestants. 9 times out of 10, I have not met a Protestant yet who doesn't believe in the Trinity. Boom, that could be something that we could connect over.
Mhm.
So it's just really just building that, and that is exactly what I'm doing right now, is really trying to build those bridges, really having those important conversations, touching on subjects that nobody wants to talk about. That is the point of my channel. What are topics that I know people don't want to talk about? And when I talk about them, not just sugarcoating it or trying to sugarcoat our faith, and also not trying to affirm certain things, secular ideas as well. It's really being honest and really bringing on those conversations. So, for example, if I'm going to talk about, I I just had on recently somebody, a life coach and a relationship coach. She's incredible. She's a Catholic life coach and relationship coach. And so we got to talk about how to heal. Why do most of your relationships fail, and how do you heal from it? But this
Wow.
isn't this isn't coming from a secular perspective. This is coming strictly from a Catholic who, by the way, she implemented church fathers into that entire conversation. She implemented the Catholic Church's teachings. That is what I want to bring on. Because knowing that any topic that you can think of, there's always a way to base it back into the apostolic faith. And that's like, I know that's a long winded answer, but yeah,
Oh,
that is what
great
it is.
answer. So, what has been some of the feedback you've received on your channel?
I received a lot of really positive feedback. A lot of people have been very happy with the work that I'm doing. Which, praise God. There was like, oh my gosh, thank you for doing this episode or for filming this episode, and I would say, glory to God. I'm just somebody that just is a vessel, and that is just willing to be used by Him. Um, but yeah, I think the feedback has been very, very positive. I've had some hiccups along the way as well. Sometimes I can be a little too passionate, and sometimes I think I need to kind of simmer it down a little bit. But other than that, I think I'm on a pretty good path, and I've gotten a lot of really positive feedback, constructive feedback as well. It also helps out when you when you have an online community in a close circle. Like, for example, the other William, he's one of my
Mhm.
closest friends, and so a lot of times he'll give me feedback on some of my shows and be like, hey, maybe relax on this part, or hey, by the way, you kind of messed up on this part, you shouldn't have said this, but maybe you could reword it in a different way. So yeah, still learning.
We all are. We're always learning. And one of the things I saw a post on your YouTube channel a couple weeks ago. Um, sorry, one of my kids were about to invade the room. Um, that you're wanting to do more Spanish-speaking things. And can you explain why why that's important? Because that is a big deal. I think the group is underrepresented.
Yes. So, um, the direction that I'm moving my podcast is trying to do more English and Spanish content, specifically. So I've noticed that there's a really huge need in the Spanish apologetics world, the Spanish Catholic community
Yeah.
specifically, where we don't have enough resources. So the English speaking community is very blessed to have incredible apologists who know the faith, who can represent the faith very well, who can share and who we can learn from. But in the Spanish community, we don't have that. And so that has been something that really, really, I think the Lord has been really putting on my heart, is to bring people to share the faith not only in English but share it in Spanish, because I can speak both languages fluently. And really the purpose is to really try to equip them in their faith, because there's still a lot of the Spanish community that still don't even know the basics of their faith. They don't know how to explain the Trinity. They don't know how to explain the Eucharist, the real presence. How does that actually become the real how does that actually become Christ? They don't know how to explain that. And so my goal is to help those people. My goal is to bring on more guests, to educate, to help edify and educate the Spanish community, so they have those resources and those things at hand, so that they're able to share that with people. Because I see that the English community, they're very, very successful in doing that. But the Spanish community does need a lot of help. And not necessarily, our apologists aren't terrible at all, but a lot of them, they don't have that knowledge. They don't have the knowledge that most of the English community does have, because the resources are very limited. A lot of times you have to translate things, or a lot of times you have to go based off of the way that you kind of understand a certain document or a certain thing, because not everything is accessible in Spanish.
Now, with the time we have left, you're going to be talking at a conference next week. Can you tell our audience a little bit about that?
Yes, so I will be speaking at the Kentucky Sacred Heart Conference. I'm very, very excited. It'll be from June 11th to the 14th. Um, and I will give you the information on that one, because I don't know the website on top of my head, but it's the Sacred Heart Conference in Kentucky. Very excited. 11th to the 14th. It's the biggest conference in the U.S. We're consecrating America to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. That is what is going to be very important to know, is that we're consecrating the entire U.S. to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and we have incredible guests lined up, incredible speakers. I'll be speaking along some of my favorite people in the Catholic community, so I'm very, very excited for that.
Yeah, I know the Michael Snellen, who's the organizer, he's putting together this awesome. I remember seeing the flyer and it had three people. It had William Albrecht and Gary Machuda, and there was one other gentleman. I forget who it was, but now it's like exploded. It's like if you're
It's
anywhere
over
near
30
there,
speakers.
yeah, it's crazy. And there's going to be a music thing going on. Just go if you're nearby, and it's awesome. Um, Ari, thank you for spending the time with me this evening. And if our audience wanted to get a hold of you to ask questions, is there a good way they can get a hold of you?
Absolutely, they can reach through my so if you go on my YouTube, you'll see that I also have my email linked. I will link it in the description below. I have my email there, my podcast email, and then I also have my social medias as well. I have a Patreon that I'm going to start working on a little bit more. Be uploading exclusive early content on there with a couple of good Catholic, well-known Catholics that I have contact with. So doing all that, basically. But mainly you'll find me here on YouTube. But if anybody wants to get a hold of me, either message me on my social media. I am most active on Instagram, and I am most active through my emails. I check my emails every day. So
All right, thank you so much for joining me. God bless you and what you're doing. You're doing amazing work. Love what you're doing. Love the shows. Great information there. Please follow Jesus Talks dash Ari on YouTube. So check her out. Ari, God bless you and thank you so much.
thank you so much for having me. It was truly a blast.